Now available in paperback and ebook, The Man Who Rules the World. John Hayes must bring together men and gods to overcome a threat that seeks to destroy the planet. The Man Who Rules the World. Now available in paperback and e-readers everywhere. President Donald Trump has proposed to change the SNAP food stamp program as part of his 2019 budget. And in his proposal, he proposes to change the SNAP food stamp program from a monthly debit card with an allotment of dollars an individual can spend at a retailer like a supermarket, a grocery store, a convenience store, or a big box retailer like Walmart or Target, to a box of processed food that will be shipped to their home to sustain their nutritional needs. Now, your President Donald Trump, I believe, has created this proposal because he has the view that most people on welfare are African American, and that because there are so many African Americans and minorities on welfare and food stamps, they are abusing the program. So he wants to change it to this allotment of food in an effort to spite black people and people of color. And what he doesn't know is that most of the people on welfare and food stamps are primarily white people. And that's the way it has historically been since the Great Depression. Now, when the welfare programs were first implemented by Franklin Roosevelt, they were to deal with all of the poverty that many white people were in during the Depression. And one of the reasons why we had so many families getting on welfare was because so many white men walked out on their families during the 1920s and 1930s, and many men wanted nothing to do with their children. However, the stereotype that has been promoted to people like your Donald Trump is that it's black men who were the ones out here walking away from their families. However, all we have to do is take a look at the data, and it will show us that during that period of the Depression and during those periods before the feminist movement came to the black community, black marriages were at an all-time high, and black families were strong during this period. It was white families that had to deal with people with fathers walking out on them, and it was white families that primarily could get welfare during the Jim Crow period. However, propaganda promoted to people like your Donald Trump make them believe that it's black people who are the ones who are primarily on welfare. And these proposals that your Donald Trump primarily makes are going to hurt white people the most. Moreover, it's going to hurt the members of our military, because what your Donald Trump also doesn't know is that many of the members of our armed forces also supplement their income with food stamps because their salaries are so low that it qualifies them for food stamps. So many of those members of our armed forces, he is harming them and preventing them from being able to feed their families, because when it comes down to members of our military, they are the ones who receive extremely low wages, and many of them struggle to make ends meet. So those food stamps are a way that they supplement their income and are able to feed their families. This is something your Donald Trump doesn't understand as related to the SNAP program. The SNAP program just doesn't help poor people in the inner city. It helps people all across the country. But to him, he thinks that it's just poor people in the inner city because he lived in New York City and all he saw were poor people in the inner city. Now, your Donald Trump has these ideas because he believes, again, the concepts that Ronald Reagan proposed regarding the welfare queen, and because he lived in a city where he saw some people abusing food stamps. Now, I grew up on the food stamp program as a kid back in the 80s, and I remember back when they had the food stamps in books with these colored coupons. And when my mother would use food stamps, she would use them to buy us fresh food so that we could be able to go to school every day and be able to try to get ourselves to the point where we could be able to finish school and then go out here and find full-time employment. That was what her goal was, to get us to get through school and finish school to the point where we could work and take care of ourselves. But your Donald Trump is sitting there and he thinks it's just poor people on welfare abusing the program. And yes, there are some people out here who abuse the food stamp program. And I've seen them not only in my South Bronx neighborhood, I have also seen them at high-end supermarkets I used to go to when I used to have money when I was working at places like Food Emporium, Fairway, and Whole Foods Supermarket. And there would be people there asking, are you going to pay for that with cash? And they were looking to use their food stamps to get cash out of individuals. And some of those individuals weren't black. So some of them were white people. So your Donald Trump is sitting there thinking that he's going to stop food stamp fraud by giving people boxes of food. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen, because I saw with Rudy Giuliani's plan to fingerprint food stamp um, recipients, that failed, because that's how we got the individual who will sit there and tell you, are you paying for this with cash? He would walk up to the individual, ask them if, with a cart of groceries, ask them if they were going to pay for something with cash, and then get the cash for the groceries by paying for it with his food stamp card. The key thing with these social programs is that you're not going to be able to stop fraud, because when it comes down to people being fraudulent, they were never following the rules in the first place. And no amount of rules is going to stop people from hustling, because people who hustle never follow the rules in the first place. And your Donald Trump thinks, oh, I'll give them boxes of food and this will stop the corruption. Unfortunately, all that's going to lead to is another road to corruption, because what's going to happen is he's going to create a new road for corruption, because in order to ship these boxes of food to people, you're going to have trucks to ship this food to people. You're going to need boxes to ship these boxes to people. And you're going to have workers doing this kind of work. And when they're doing this kind of work, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have theft. There's no escaping it. One of the core reasons why we have a food stamp program is this. Most people in the government wanted to minimize the cost of getting food to individuals, because when it comes down to warehousing food and shipping food, that costs a lot of money. That's going to add more money to the budget, and it's going to create a whole new group of people who have to go out here and not only pack this food, ship this food, and deliver this food. So it's going to cost more to do this than actually go out here and just give people this cash on an allotted card. Moreover, the food stamp program was also meant to supplement the American economy, because many of the retailers out here who have been struggling for the last couple of years due to more people shopping online, they rely heavily on those food stamp purchases in order to meet their bottom line. Places like Walmart, Target, Whole Foods, Fairway, and many other local supermarkets, food stamps are the way they keep their razor thin profit margin. And when your Donald Trump goes out here and says he's going to end the food stamp program and cut their profits, he is actually cutting off, again, another large base of voters, people who have money to pay special interests to take care of him. So your Donald Trump proposes these ideas, but what he doesn't understand is he's hurting himself. And he's hurting himself because he wants to get back at black people who he believes are abusing the food stamp program. And what he doesn't know is he's hurting his own voter base. But this is what most Americans voted for when they voted for Donald Trump. Because when most people voted for Donald Trump, they voted for him out of anger. They voted for him out of spite to Barack Obama. And they were angry because a black man was president, and they thought they would go vote for this white man because they thought this white man would have their best interests at heart. But as the years go by, we see more and more reasons why Donald Trump is grossly unqualified to be the president of these United States. Instead of being a leader that unites people and sets a course to make America great again, he is a very petty man who looks to get back at people who he doesn't like in a hopes of trying to make the country the way he wants it to be. And when you listen to his proposal for this shipping of boxes of food to people, it really reminds me of the same type of ideas that come out of communist countries like China and Russia, because in communist countries like China and Cuba and Russia, they give you allotments of food for the month. They give you boxes of food for the month, and they give you allotments of things so that everybody can have the same amount of things. This whole proposal reeks of communism as I see it. And that's why I look at this proposal and I see it as something that is so un-American it's not funny. Unfortunately, most Americans are so spellbound by Donald Trump that they can't see what direction they're going in. They're so angry at black people and people of color that they want to get back at them, but they don't see how they're hurting themselves by going along with this incompetent man who should have never been the president of the United States. They think that this is a good idea, but I listen to this proposal and I see something that smells of communism, just like his plans for a military parade. It just smells of communism and reeks of communism. And I look at this Donald Trump and his proposal for the food stamp program, and again, it just doesn't seem like something an American would propose. I look at this program, this idea, and again, he just does not seem like a leader. Unfortunately, most white Americans are too angry at black people to take a constructive look at the man they voted for president of these United States. And I look at the demographics again. 60% of white women voted for this man. 90% of white men voted for him. 30% of Hispanic men and 30% of Hispanic women. And many of those people are now getting voters' remorse because they're realizing that this man who proposed to make America great again seems to be a despot who has no understanding of what America really is all about. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.